What's up, everybody? This is your girl Trina Harrison, and I am here with an impromptu session of Amazing Love. And let me apologize right now. I wish I had a better camera. This camera is not really picking up my good side. No, sir. But anyway, I wanted to have impromptu session of Amazing Love because, as you know, there is a video going around of the show The Preachers, where Monique was on the show and she talked about an open marriage. Um, and let me just make this clear. I am not judging Monique. I'm not judging her actions. I'm the first to say you have to find the culture of or you have to set the tone of your house, find the culture of your household, and do what works for you and your spouse. All right. So I totally believe in, the way I may do things in my house and the way, me and JJ may do things in our house may not work particularly for your house, which is fine. No one has to run their house the same. You have to do what keeps peace in your home. So I'm all for that. There's just so many dangers in what her and her husband has decided to do. And again, I'm not judging them. And part of the reason I think where my non-judgmental attitude or position, I should say, comes from is because of the fact that I don't know if Monique is saved. I don't know if she, knows about Jesus. I don't even know if she believes that marriage was instituted by God. But the thing about it is, we do. And if we don't, that's why if everybody had, or if the whole world had the answers, there would be no need for us being disciples and us being Christians. The whole Christian thing to do is to show someone another way, but show them that way with love and kindness. And I don't know if that's been the tone, and I'm not saying it's not because I haven't read every comment. So I'm sure that there are some people out there who have tried to, in a lovingly way, explain to Monique why this might not always work, or it could have potential long-term dangers towards the marriage. And like I said, maybe she doesn't know. And that's why God put us here so that we can show other people the way. And I think that when I was watching her, her position seemed to be as though, she's accepted this, but a lot of people, or her husband, or maybe I should say her husband has accepted this, because to my understanding, it was her suggestion to have an open marriage. And for those of you who don't know what an open marriage is, an open marriage means that, yes, you are married to one particular person, but let's say you see somebody that's a hottie and you like, oh, I want to sleep with him. So you call your husband and you say, do I have your permission to have sexual intercourse with this other person? And then your spouse gives you permission, you proceed with that, little intercourse thing, and then you go back to living your married life. Um, I just don't know. I can't understand the full concept of it. And that's because I'm not allowing myself, because I don't want to, because I already know it won't work for me. I believe that marriage was instituted by God, and it's one man, one woman, in the marriage, and of course, one man, woman having intercourse with each other is the way God ordained it to be, and anything else to me is, yes, a sin. But like I said, I don't know if Monique knows any better. And sometimes, like I said, we accept stuff, or her husband, maybe he's accepting these things because he doesn't know what the ramifications are. We can't just, what's common sense to you and me may not be common sense to someone else. So I don't want us to take like this judgmental type position and come against her. And I promise I just have like 4 or 5 reasons or points as to why this is not the greatest idea for a marriage. And I just want to share them with you. And I know some of you may know these things already. Some of you may not have ever heard of it. But, I always think about things from the other person's perspective. Now, let's say Monique does go out and she, has intercourse with somebody else. Um, what's going to happen if she actually starts developing feelings for each other, or for that person, I should say. And I feel bad because in the video she was saying how her husband was just her best friend. Sydney is her best friend, and she could not see herself being dishonest with Sydney and lying to him about a relationship that she had had. So she thought it was better that she tell him, or that she ask his permission, hey, this is what I'm going to do. And he said yes. But if someone is your best friend, I can't imagine why you would do anything to jeopardize that friendship, that relationship, especially because this is definitely something that's optional. It's nothing that's necessary. It's nothing that you have to do. It's something you choose to do, but it's nothing that you have to do. So, back to my point, what's going to happen if you, or if Monique started having feelings for this other person? Because it's sex, after all. Sex is very intimate. It's literally giving yourself to someone else. You can't help but do that and there be some type of emotional attachment. Let's just take, for instance, if someone gets raped, right? And they didn't love the person or whatever, it just happened. It is a detriment to affect that stays with that person for years, years and years. It's something you don't forget. There are negative feelings involved, and those negative feelings stay with you forever. Usually you don't forget, not unless you've had like multiple partners. Usually you don't forget who those people were that you were intimate with. I bet you if I asked you right now, how many people were you intimate with, you can probably think off the top of your head. If you've had more than one person, you can probably think off the top of your head who you've been with. Some, if you're honest, some you may still have feelings for, some you may not. Or, when I say feelings, it doesn't necessarily always have to be a good feeling either. It could be a negative feeling, it could be a regretful feeling. My point is, feelings come about from sexual intercourse. So my fear is that she'll get into this almost like relationship with this person, because otherwise it's just random one night stands. And even if we're not talking about biblically what's right and wrong, who wants to go around having one night stands? Like, that's not the way it's supposed to be, especially not even if you're not married. That's not the way it's supposed to be. And there's even more of a requirement for you to stay with one person if you are married. Um so like I said, I really feel bad because of the fact that she's giving herself and creating all of these soul ties to these different people. And I say different people, but I don't really know that it is. Maybe it is just one person, which may be even a little bit more dangerous, because then there is that sexual attraction and there's that emotional attachment that comes about from being with someone. And if she doesn't have hateful feelings for this person, it's not a rape situation, those feelings can develop into something a little bit more intense as time goes along. And here it is, you have your spouse, which is supposed to be your best friend, and someone who you would never betray, and someone who you want to respect your word and trust you and all this kind of stuff. I just don't see how that would work. And I hope both Sydney and Monique, um, someone can really talk to them and talk about the fact that you're developing these ties with this person, and eventually you may find yourself wanting that one night stand person more than you want your husband. And that may not always be in a physical way. It may be an emotional attachment that you develop to this person, and now you will find yourself becoming more best friends with this person who you had this one night stand with, or this sexual relationship with, even more than your best friend. So now you've caused damage to your relationship with your husband. And I don't know that that is the case, but I can foresee it happening. Another thing that would happen is that, and I have to be careful the way I say this, because it's going to sound kind of comical, but it also hits home. Let's just face it. Men compare and women compare. Now, for myself, I've never had more than one partner. So I don't even care to know if there's anybody that can do a trick or something like that I've never had done to me or whatever. It's not even on my radar. Like, who cares? I already know what I got. And I'm talking about in my husband. I know what I have in him. I know how he satisfies me. and I don't search for anything else. Um, but for those people who can relate, if you've had more than one partner, I'm sure somewhere in the back of your head you're like, well, Joe is much better than Rob. And in the case, and like I'm really not trying to be humorous, even though it does have a humorous tone to it. In the case that, okay, let's just say she's married or someone is married to Rob. Sally is married to Rob. And then Sally goes and gets permission from Rob and she sleeps with Joe. And then she finds out that, whoa, Joe, oh my God, he is like rocking my world. Then all of a sudden it's this comparison thing in mind. And then Sally's not really gonna want, what I say his name was, Rob, whatever he was. Sally's really not gonna want Rob. She's gonna now want Joe because that's where her sexual attention is drawn to. But she's married to Rob and she's hurting Rob. And remember, Rob is her best friend. So I just don't understand how you can put your best friend in such a position, whereas, number one, you might be developing these emotional attachments to Joe. And then you also might now be comparing Joe to Rob, which makes it very unfair for poor Rob because he's probably trying his doggone best. But because you've tasted something else, it's like you've been exposed to something and now your mind wanders. And like, how many times can you just keep on going back to this one person and Rob be like, okay, yeah. I mean, you get where I'm coming from. It's just I don't really think that it's really all that fair. That's just me. Like I said, in no judgmental tone, these are just things that I want you to think about. Another thing, and I have notes here because I this was really, really playing on my mind. You can ask JJ. He was like, Trina, okay. So that's how long I've been going back and forth with this and been preaching to him and everything. So I just had to get it out. So I got my notes. But anyway, the fact of the matter is, most of us want someone that no one else has had. Let's be honest. You don't want, if I'm Sally, I don't want Mary in the back row to be saying, yeah, I had Rob. Rob ain't all of that, or, she's had something that I now call mine. That could really be a problem. And speaking from Rob's perspective, even if it's Sally, there's now with Joe, it's like you don't want, Rob does not want something that someone else can taste and can have at any time. That doesn't say wife. That says girlfriend, or not even girlfriend. That says loose. That says very loose, but it doesn't say wife. It doesn't say commitment. It doesn't say intimacy. So I just think it's strange. And then that also brings the question in my head is, how much do we cherish each other as husband and wife? Let me take this for example. Let's just say that Michael Jackson or Michael Jordan, whoever, signed a basketball. Michael Jordan, he signed a basketball for you. And now a basketball that you may have purchased out of a Toys R Us with Michael Jordan's signature, this basketball now becomes like a collector's item. Like, it's valuable. It's something that you cherish too. Because most people, if they have a baseball or basketball or anything with somebody's signature, they put it up. Some people get one of those plastic plexiglass or whatever cases. Or I tell you what, for instance, JJ and I went to see Michael Jackson in Vegas. While we were there, before you entered the theater, it was like this case. I imagine the case was bulletproof. I imagine the glass on it had to be maybe about 5 or 6 inches thick. It was something that you can see as you, I don't know why I did that. It was something you can see as you were passing by, but you definitely could not touch it. Um, and the reason why, what was in that plexiglass or inside that case, was the actual penny loafer shoes that Michael Jackson wore. They were his. He did the moonwalk in them. They even had his socks, the original Michael Jackson paraphernalia, or the stuff that was his. It might have even had his fingerprints on it, because when things are valuable and they're treasured, You have to wear gloves. Even the authorized people who are touching these things, these artifacts, they have to wear gloves. Reason being is because you don't want everybody's fingerprints on it. It loses value. You don't want everybody touching it, and the wear and the tear of different peoples and or people, I should say, the wear and the tear of different people touching these things and having access to it brings down the value of it, right? So then I wonder, how much as husbands and wives do we value and treasure our spouse's bodies? This is something that is so intimate. And let me pause by saying that even if you had multiple partners in the past, once you have made that commitment to your spouse, you now belong to your spouse. For all mind, body, and spirit, you belong to your spouse. So if you really treasure what you have, you don't want anybody touching it. You don't want anybody being intimate with it. Too many fingerprints, too many, and I'm trying not to be graphic, but I'm painting a picture for you of what actually takes place during sexual intercourse. We are grown adults. Most of us don't have sexual intercourse without clothes on. Most of us are very intimate with the people we are with. That being the case, how many people are touching what you treasure? And psychologically, eventually, it loses value. It doesn't even seem as intimate as what it once was because so many people have access to it. I think you guys understand what I'm saying. Let me tell you how I feel about JJ. I'll use his mustache, for instance. I asked him to grow that mustache, that beard, that whole thing, that whole action here. I asked him to grow that because I love it. It's beautiful to me. I treasure it. I don't want anybody touching his mustache. Be like, back up. That whole personal space thing, don't touch it. So can you imagine how I feel about the rest of him? Don't touch it. Keep your personal, that whole 20, is it 20 feet, 15, whatever. It's personal space. Now, JJ's in the public eye a lot, and I don't mind you looking. You can look. Remember how I did this before? You can look, but please don't touch. Don't do it. It's just not right. And people, I can go on and on and on about this, but the important message that I want you to get is number one, I'll go back through the things that I said. Number one is you'll find yourself loving whoever it is that you're having these extra, marital relations with. You'll find yourself not only sexually attracted to them, but mentally, and that will in turn become, that's when we got into comparison and we talked about how you'll start comparing one lover to the next. And number three was that you have to value and treasure what is yours. And by allowing your spouse to go out in this open marriage, allowing your spouse to go out and sleep with other people does not show that you love and you treasure what is yours. Your body is her body. Her body is his body. There's not supposed to be anyone else touching it. So even, like I said, there are a million, or not even, there are so many scriptures that we can go through to show you what is meant by husband and wife and how that bed should not be shared. Those things should not be shared with anyone else. But let's just speak from a practical standpoint. It's just not wise. Now, amazing love makes amazing sacrifices. If I know that my husband is going to be gone for, let's say he went to South Africa at one time and he was gone for maybe like a week and a half or something like that, that was just like, it's hard for me to be away from him. I love him. And not even, sexual is a thing, but also that's my best friend. I don't want to be away from him. But in this particular instance, I had to. But I can control my flesh for the time that we have to be apart from each other. And he can control his flesh for the time that we have to be apart from each other, to where we don't have to go searching for anybody else. And he's not blind. I'm not blind. I'm sure he sees attractive women. There are attractive men out there, but my radar is not even there because I already know what I have in him and he knows what he has in me. And that's just not up for grabs. So that's speaking practical. Like it's just it's I, hmm, can't do it. But anyway, like I said, there are so many things we could talk about. I didn't want this to be long. I just wanted to give you food for thought. Again, follow us on Amazing Love. We're going to be doing more of these sessions because there's more things with marriages out there that I want us to look at from both the spiritual and the practical standpoint. I apologize he couldn't be here with me today. He's, of course, singing and being faithful to the ministry in which we serve, and I'm happy about that. So thank you so much for your time. And if you have any questions, feel free to follow me on social media at Trina Hairston or at Amazing Love with JJ and Trina on Instagram. You'll find us there. It's really us. Peace.